Welcome back, welcome in, welcome all to the Like That podcast, episode 20. With your host, as always, Nico, Nick, Brooklyn. And guys, you see the NBA jersey. We're seeing two NBA jerseys on one man. We're seeing three NBA jerseys on one man.
And get this, not a single one of those three is still on the team.
We are fully into the swing of hoops. Right, right at the beginning of the season, right after the All Star break, of course. Um, but yeah, guys, I mean, how are you feeling? How are you? Like, are we excited to, when doing your homework now, switching off the gridiron, going to the basketball court? I mean, we've all been following, but football definitely took the priority. But was it nice doing some NBA digging, like not your normal homework?
I think it's definitely nice to be able to dive into the NBA again because I think, especially if you're a Nets fan, things have been really hard to buy into as of very late. And also, seeing the big three fall apart, I had like no real reason to be like, let's keep up with the Nets. And, I paid attention a lot to football this year. And it's been really nice to kind of just like get myself back into basketball. Not even just from a Nets fan perspective. I don't even have their games on my TV because we don't have Spectrum as our home internet, so we don't get the channel for Yes, so I can never actually watch them. Maybe that's a good thing. But other than that, I think it's definitely been nice to kind of like take a bit of a focus back into basketball. That was my first sport, so
Whoops, sorry. Um, no, I agree. It's been really cool to get back into the swing of things. I've kept up with it, but I haven't watched like a full game since Celtics tip off. Obviously, 2024 when they won the championship, that was like really my main full season that I was like really locked in. They traded for Porzingis. Like that was the whole everything was meshing together. And then they won the whole thing. That was great. And then last year, obviously Tatum going down with the injury. So, this year I've been tuning in because they've been, exceeding expectations, but uh, gathering all my homework, especially during All-Star weekend, I'm really excited to get into this episode.
Well, I know back in college, the three of us, I think the thing we bet on most collectively was the NBA. We were always yapping about it, and I'd say that with this type of like episode structure, it does make things difficult to project. Like today's episode, we're recapping All Star Weekend. We're gonna be talking about some betting trends earlier this year and some of just the bigger storylines can get everybody up to speed on the season as a whole. But in reality, on the podcast side of things, it's not gonna be like football where we're picking props that are gonna be available 3 to 4 days later. Whereas when we're recording this, we can take a look at Thursday's games, but you don't really have too much further intel. So that's where you're going to go to our social pages, like that underscore pod. That's where you're going to see, if there are more plays that we like throughout the week. Obviously, only recording once a week, going up on Thursdays. But if you want to, follow us on the socials and you could see what we're playing on a daily basis. I know Brooklyn's been spitting some.
shout out to Twitter.
Yeah, the college picks have been going on Twitter recently, and that's again like that underscore pod. But yeah, into the NBA season. Let's start it, exactly where it is right now. We recorded our last episode, and there was not a single game of basketball outside of All Star Weekend that we saw. Damian Lillard has not played a game all year, out all year with the ACL injury. Wins the 3-point contest. Um, the All Star game as a whole, I think, kind of, I enjoyed the layout. You saw guys actually put, I think, more effort than you have seen in the past. These games are pretty entertaining as a whole. I think the team compositions, I thought in some ways, I thought one roster was a lot worse than the other, and then the game was closer than I thought. Kawhi Leonard kind of popped off. Dunk contest, I don't think will ever live up to 2016, so I think it's always going to look at as a disappointment. But your guys' thoughts on All Star Weekend? I personally thought it was cool. I think it was a step up from years past. But yeah, the dunk contest is kind of mid.
I very much enjoyed seeing the fact that Dame was able to win a 3-point contest off of not even playing a game at all this year. I think that's still so weird that he was involved in that event. But that event in of itself, 3-point contest, seeing people knock down shot after shot is always something to me that is kind of entertaining. Dunk contest, we've gone so far away from what the goal was. I don't know. I didn't even watch the dunk contest. I got all my highlights from Twitter. Jace Richardson just getting CTE on one of his attempts. Jackson Hayes just attempting a random like off one tomahawk. I know what he was going for, but it was horribly executed. That was just it's dunk contest has been on a downward decline ever since Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine. All-Star game, I guess you could call it All-Star games, right? You know, three different games. It was pretty cool to see. I think that especially with a lot of the substitutions that happened this year, it's not like some of these guys won't be All-Stars again, but there were guys who were thrown into it pretty late. And to me, you got some guys in there who are just really good for the All-Star weekend in general. Guys who are just competitors. Anthony Edwards, I think every time that you put him in an All-Star game, he's not going to be like, well, it's All-Star weekend. He's going to compete. Kawhi Leonard just was going insane, and even in that, you have the other team trying to stop him because they're just getting destroyed in that game. De'Aaron Fox in a game winner. I think overall the action that it brought out, having just one quarter to play, and then you to beat the other team. I think that was just really cool to see. Low expectations from the NFL.
Oh, definitely. I have to say, I I know the Olympics are also going on, but I was getting like sleeper updates like as the events were happening in like the middle of the afternoon. I was like, wait, what do you mean the 3-point contest is over? Like it was like 6 o'clock on Saturday. So that was also just really weird. And I know we were talking the night of the All-Star game, like literally as the last game. It ended at like 8 o'clock at night on Sunday. Um, and I was saying how nobody really watches it anymore, and then turns out that this was the most watched All-Star game like within the last few years. Granted, a lot of that has to do with streaming and whatnot, but still, no, I agree. I think the team split is it's entertaining. Guys like Wemby and Kawhi like actually putting in effort, also showcasing everything that they can. The jerseys looked really cool too. I have to say the dynamic, and I know it was at the Intuit Dome. So that whole atmosphere is actually really cool because Clippers owner put like a bajillion dollars into that stadium. So the lights under the seats always make it look so pretty.
Dude, the warm up
But I think
the warm up tracksuits were so tough.
I know,
They were
dude. That's
so
one thing about
clean.
All-Star game weekend. Like the game, if they're not gonna try, at least if the jerseys look cool, because there's some classics. But that one, I would say the weekend it definitely exceeded my expectations because it for me in the past, just with the events and everything, like even with the skills competition last year with Wemby and CP3 just chucking up the balls, not even trying, it didn't feel good. But it was a nice refresher this year for sure.
Shout out Shams Charania going like 0 for 9 from the field in the celebrity game.
Can they just
You
get
know,
rid of that,
the newest
please?
Woj, the newest Woj can't knock down a single shot.
That like
Got lethal shooter
so
as your coach.
you're just running out of people for that game. When do you run out of celebrities for this?
The
There's a point.
funniest thing to me was the coaches for the celebrity teams. One of them, was like lethal shooter Chris Brickley, and then some celebrity comedian, I forget his name. And then the other one was Alex Antetokounmpo, Thanasis Antetokounmpo, Giannis, and you're like, that's cool. Mookie Betts. Where does that come from?
I mean, they're just trying to get everybody just to gain some momentum for Celebrity Weekend. But
Where's Mr. Beast?
yeah,
That would have been huge.
I think my biggest thing about celebrity games is the fact that Lethal Shooter is not playing in these games means he's running from the grind. If there's anybody that has a lot of pride on the line, if Lethal Shooter shoots like 25% from the field in the celebrity game, that's his reputation, man. He's literally Lethal Shooter.
He has to delete every social media page he owns at that point. He's a fake.
Yeah, so
He's like the
limited
stakes
as a
weren't high
coach.
enough. There wasn't needles on the rim. I wasn't challenged enough. It was too easy for me. I couldn't lock in.
But yeah, that's All-Star Weekend. It's fun, it's silly, and it was an improvement from last year. Still, I think the worst moment that I know of All-Star games in the past was the walk-off free throw. So the bar was, like we said, the bar was low, and they exceeded there. But if we're going to talk about some betting trends, I feel like it's the majority of what we've spent this podcast on. Just going, if you haven't been looking, the best 5 teams against the spread this year in order: Phoenix. The Suns have been covering at almost a 64% rate this year. You have Charlotte number 2 at 58%. Miami, 57%. I just choked a little bit. and then the Spurs. But Charlotte, Phoenix, big surprises there at the top. And then you go on the flip side of the bottom from worst to fifth worst. We've got the Kings at 21 and 35 against the spread. Orlando's been disappointing. Washington, a bad team. Cleveland in the bottom four, a surprise, only covering it almost 42%, and then Dallas rounding out the last five. Anything that catches your eye there? I mean, I think Phoenix and Charlotte at the top is pretty cool. It kind of translates with what we talked about in the NFL last episode. How I think the best way to profit off sports books is riding teams that didn't have high expectations going into the year, and yet your two most profitable are the two teams that I don't think anybody expected to be in the spots they are right now.
Yeah, and a team like the Cavs, I mean, basketball spreads are a lot differently, so a lot of they're probably favorites, and most of their games were probably double-digit spreads. So, I mean, they probably had close-knit games. So, I could see like the better teams being at the bottom. I mean, there's going to be a few things that I bring up later on with some of the better teams too that you'll see like spread-wise. But it's kind of the same thing with the NFL and the NBA. Like the good teams, they have good regular season records, winning records outright, but spread records sometimes it's gets a little iffy.
And you think about that, and the Thunder is a prime example. When they are like away underdogs, like they're 14 and 12, and it's kind of a number that stands out because like you think about who the Thunder when they play, that spread is usually pretty high, and that is the best team in the NBA. And if you take a look at teams like Cleveland playing Brooklyn tomorrow, that spread I think is at 16 and a half, and like blowouts are maybe common when it comes to teams that are bad versus teams that are very very good, but to put your money on a 16 and a half spread or anything that's really above like 12 and a half. Not saying that that's not realistic because we see that all the time in the NBA, but I like to rely on the fact that these teams and these players are professional athletes, and a lot of these guys are veterans. Unless you're looking at some of the younger teams in the league, but like the Thunder, may not cover a 16 and a half spread more often than times, and they just like win by 10. And I have also something I'll talk about later on when we talk about betting trends here. So yeah, Nico, I'll let you start it off.
Yeah, I found a couple that I think are kind of just funny in ways. Like the Lakers specifically this year, if they have a lead going into the fourth quarter, they have not lost. They're 24 and 0 straight up. Against the spread, 22 and 2. And funny enough, they are great when leading going into the fourth. But in recent matches, the Lakers are 0 for 10 when they are underdogs. And kind of on the flip side of that, you have Nets and the Nets and the Heat. They are a combined 2 for 54 this year when trailing in the fourth. The Nets specifically have only won one game this year when they've been trailing by 10 points or more, just at any point in the game. So Cleveland goes up 10-0. So that's a lock right there.
It's because sometimes they're losing these games by like 40 points, man. You know how demoralizing it is for me to go on Reel and see how much my team's losing by and not being able to like see it actually happen. Like when did the decline happen? No, I just check ESPN and they're just getting ass blasted.
So far this year, there's an average of 231 points scored in every NBA game, and that is the highest it's ever been. So we're seeing a lot more points. We're seeing some bad defense from these bottom feeder teams, but yeah, we're seeing the Lakers that are insanely good going into the fourth, the Nets and Heat that are insanely bad going into the fourth, and some high-scoring basketball games this year.
Pretty interesting stuff. Some things that I found that were pretty interesting. The Hornets that we mentioned, top 5 team against the spread this year. They're actually the best team against the spread as underdogs. They're covering at a 60% rate this season with a record 24 and 16. So you see the Hornets as an underdog, especially if it's like a high number. I would say like over 6.5. I would definitely consider taking it. We also how we kind of mentioned like the good teams, like Brooklyn mentioned the Thunder. 42 total wins outright, but they're sub 50% covering the spread as favorites this season. 27 and 28 record. Not saying like again, this kind of goes with the fact like they've been favorites by 16, 17 and a half points before. So that also kind of goes into the factor of like, yeah, they're a good team. They lead the league in wins. They're 42 wins. They only have 14 losses, but a lot of that has to do with the double digit spreads. And a lot of them has been with close games. Shea's been hurt. So, take that into account. And also, interesting stat, 1 and 8 against the spread with no rest. So usually games on back to backs, stuff like that. Especially with it's the high double digits favorites. Not that good. So just some stuff that I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and really quick touching upon Nico's points with this is the highest, we've seen score totals in league history. I mean, you look at how basketball's evolved. Every big man or most big men, have some sort of jumper now, and a lot of guys can now take it beyond the arc. And it is becoming a game where scoring at a high volume is becoming something that is just going to keep on growing. You saw that start with the caliber of players like LaMelo and stuff like that. It's just the league's evolving to a point where defense is getting more difficult because of the skill set of a lot of people coming into modern basketball. But going into my spread picks, and well, not spread picks, but spread trends that I saw. Things around Phoenix really have been pretty surprising. Phoenix, I think, sitting at the 7 seed right now in the West, and their win total was projected, I think, 31.5, and they've already covered 32 at this point. And if you think about a lot of the games that they've been at, if that was the market, or sorry, if that was the line for Phoenix's win total, and they've been winning more games than they were expected to, and we're not even done with the season yet. I mean, that spread is obviously going to be crushing it. 35-20 against the spread if they are especially not favored for most of those. 17-11 as underdogs as well. We talked about it in our last football episode about the Panthers and spread trends there after a loss. Kind of correlates now. I bring that over to the basketball world, and we're looking at the Heat, who are 20-7 against the spread after an L. And then also something that's a big deal, right? Home court advantage. You want to know a team that has negated what home court advantage really feels like? It's the 76ers, 17-8 against the spread as away opponents. And similarly, now a team that should be thriving, right? You see the roster with Kevin Durant, Sengun, Amen Thompson, and the Houston Rockets are 8-17 against the spread at home. Maybe the spreads are a little too high, and it's meant to fool the public there, but that is the point of that. But Houston also just has had some issues just being the team that everyone has wanted them to be.
Yeah, if you look at even deeper, like if you're doing different filters for like home games, underdogs, like favorites in general, like the 76ers actually pop up a lot more than you think. They've probably been one of your more profitable teams to look at. But again, when we talk about spreads, like we were recapping the NFL last episode, realistically, these sports books want to be as close to 50% as possible. So you look at Phoenix, who's been on an insane run, covering at 64% to start the year. Realistically, if you're viewing this from the casino perspective, they're going to try to, those lines are definitely going to be favoring Phoenix a little bit more just to get that closer to 50. But if you want to ride the trends at the beginning of the year, it's riding Houston, it's riding Charlotte, it's taking the Lakers when they're up big, it's not taking the Thunder. So just some general points there, but talking more on like
Now,
some.
I'm not sure if you guys sorry to interrupt. I'm not sure if you guys just got that NBA Central notification on X.
No.
What is it?
It's weird. It's not that really that impactful, but the Cavs are only able to offer LeBron James a minimum contract.
You interrupt for that?
Oh,
I don't know why that's even a headline.
I thought it was
read
like
that as the
breaking
latest.
I
news.
thought we were gonna get more news about the Kevin Durant burner.
Did you just Intel, dude?
No, it's actually Central, but I don't know why. I don't know why that was the tweet.
Some of the biggest headlines from the year, I wanted to really talk about the trade deadline, something that was a couple weeks back, but I think this was. I feel like every year people talk about it's getting better than the next, but I think there were some interesting moves made by some smaller markets. Like if you asked me who won the trade deadline, I'd look at Utah and I'd look at Washington. If you want to talk specifically about Utah, one they own 2 first-round picks next year. They traded their own, meaning that they're expecting them to be pretty legit going into next year. But your lineup you're rolling out next year, you're gonna have Keontae George at the 1, averaging 23 points per game this year. An insane surprise there. Ace Bailey going into year 2, I think there's something, it hasn't been the best, I'd say, to start the year, but when you look what he's surrounded by, he's going to be arguably your worst, starter in the lineup. Lauri Markkanen at the 3, Triple J, that acquisition they made at the deadline at the 4, and then you have to re-sign Walker Kessler, but even Kyle Filipowski's been great at the center. Isaiah Collier's been a great guard off the bench, and I mean Cody Williams is kind of fighting bust potential, but again a top pick that is still young. So I think they made insane strides as a team that isn't really a big free agent target. I don't think anybody wants to really get big money to go to Utah. So you eat a contract that Memphis wanted to get rid of, and all of a sudden you've got one of the tallest teams in the West that will be dangerous going into next year. So I love Utah, and kind of the same for Washington, like buying in on guys that just had low value. You trade for Trae Young, you don't give up a first round pick. In total, the Washington trade deadline, they acquired Trae Young and AD at the cost of CJ McCollum, Corey Kispert, Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson, who I think is pretty cool. That's the only one I think it's bad to let go of. Marvin Bagley, 2 first-round picks, which one of them is OKC's this year. And I mean, the Golden State pick in 2030 could be interesting. And then 3 second-round picks. You turn that into Trae Young and AD. You're surrounding them with Trey Johnson, another young guy, Keyshawn George, another young guy that have been doing pretty well, and of course the second overall pick from 2 years ago. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I don't know a Wizards fan to talk to about this, but I'd be so excited, man. Next year, the season's not even over, but you're talking 2027. We might see some interesting teams in the playoffs.
This is, I think, the most excitement you've had if you're a Wizards fan, like in 10 years. Like it's been prime John Wall and Bradley Beal. Like you haven't really had like this good of a lineup to really look forward to. And they were excited with Kelly Oubre back then. So, it's kind of a crazy jump to see 10 years from now. But I also really wanted to talk about the Wizards trade too, because it's really just such a low risk, high reward. Like what they gave up with, CJ McCollum, as we mentioned, who's getting to Onk status, if not has already hit Onk status, which no disrespect to CJ. I know you're trying, Jennifer, but at the end of the day, he is hitting that basketball age where the skill value just has started to decrease. But getting an all-star caliber guard in Trae Young, pairing him up with Anthony Davis, who still is a NBA 75 player. I mean, he got disrespected. I wouldn't necessarily say disrespected in Dallas, but that organization, I'll get into that in a little bit. It's just kind of a bombshell. But yeah, man, I mean, this Wizards team, they went to work. They really they needed to make the moves that they needed to. This franchise really had no direction before this trade deadline, I would say. They had the young pieces, but they didn't really have that star piece, and now they added 2. So, there's a lot to look forward to there if you're a Wizards fan. But I can get into my moves really quick. Well, I'm already on to it. One of my moves.
Well, unless Brooklyn wants to talk about Utah or Washington, get some
I was
reactions.
gonna touch upon Utah.
Sorry.
On Utah in a bit, but personally, I think there's like the first thing that happened when Jaren Jackson got traded is I immediately tried to picture that starting lineup, and it was going to be Keontae Ace Bailey. Marketing at the small forward is so terrifying because he's 7 feet tall. Jaren Jackson, I mean, no matter how disappointing of a season the Grizzlies and his time in the Grizzlies has been, he's been such an impactful player just all around for that team, a major defensive status in there. And even if you talk about all this, what was it, the stat inflating with his blocks per game and stuff a couple years ago. And even that, with Walker Hessler or Phil Paskey, like, yeah, there is so much diversity now to that team. And I think that just elevated that roster so much. Now, for the Wizards side of things, I don't even understand how that Hawks trade happened for Trae Young. It was the weirdest thing to see the return with an Onk CJ and Corey Kispert, and that was just straight up it. And like I'm waiting for more to come out about that, and it's just CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. And the fact that they were able to land AD now, that is a very interesting team. Looking at Trae Young and Sar and AD, I think absolutely. This is the most excited you've been as a Wizards fan since the peak of John Wall. And Kelly Oubre being their early or their latest most exciting thing is just so crazy to me. But yeah, I'll talk about Utah in a little bit.
And I'll get into some of my favorite moves. For me, I think the Thunder trading for Jared McCain, really good deal. I mean, this is one of the Sam Presti 50 million draft picks that they own. And this is what the Thunder's going to do. We're going to see this for like the next few years. They're going to have a draft pick that may not be valuable to them, so they're just going to go and trade for a young player. And we already saw what Jared McCain could do last year in his rookie season, especially, with Maxey being out, Joel Embiid playing 3 games and then missing like 17 months. And then same thing with Paul George, who's kind of been a bust for the Sixers so far. He really stepped up. And, he kind of showcased why he deserved to get taken in the first round. So I think this is a good trade, both sides. I think for the Thunder, this whole Thunder, like anybody on this team can average 20 points per game now. It's insane. So I think both sides, it's a win. And then on the other side of things, I also think the Clippers had a really good deadline. I think the Harden trade on the Cleveland side of it was kind of questionable. especially getting rid of someone like Garland. I think Garland is he was an all-star, if not last year, very recently. I mean, he's kind of had the injury bug this past season, but he's still locked up for 3 years. He's only 25. And I also think them trading away Zubat is kind of tough, but they got Ben Matherin back. They got 2 first rounders back and Isaiah Jackson back, who's a young, big man. I think this Clippers team, they're kind of doing a rebuild, but not necessarily in a way that doesn't have them not compete. They kind of went on a little bit of a run before the All-Star break. But they're still surrounding talent around Kawhi. They're not just completely blowing up this roster, which I think is important if you especially want Kawhi to stay. Because he's kind of getting up there in age too, and he's kind of had the injury bug. But we just saw in the All Star game, he hasn't really lost his step. But I think the Clippers were kind of sneaky in this trade deadline, and I think they made some. I wouldn't necessarily say big moves, but I think some like long term deals that they were going to have to assess in the offseason.
I think that the 76ers, just the McCain situation was pretty unfortunate. You draft VJ pretty high, and he kind of solidified himself as a legitimate starter in that backcourt. Obviously, Maxey isn't going anywhere, so McCain was just an asset that really just needed to get out of there to really shine. And I mean, going to the Thunder is just another Infinity Stone for Thanos in this way. But I don't think he's going to get the opportunity I wish he would have gotten. But for OKC, I think it was just a great offer, like you said. I mean, McCain was a top pick in the first round, and 76ers turned around and just give him away for a pick that's most likely going to be lower than what they drafted McCain at, and a couple seconds. So I don't love the return for Philly, and I didn't really love the landing spot for McCain, but again, a great pickup for the Thunder. And then, like you said about the Clippers, it's not really a rebuild, more of a retool. And Garland, he hasn't been he's been a little banged up this year, kind of regressed numbers wise when you look at last year, but a great opportunity for the Clippers. Harden is an aging piece, and you get 10 years younger. I don't think you really argue that. And Matherin's another great scorer. Zubac has been playing out of his mind, but again, you saw opportunities to capitalize on some younger talent, and they did so. So I really like both pickups.
Yeah, I'm also a big fan of what the Clippers are able to do there. I mean, shipping Harden out, and he's been such an issue, and it's not even the net side of me talking about it, but it's seeing that how much of a problem he has been just for other teams, right? We all saw the viral clip of James Harden, "You're not the beard, you're the problem" type of thing, but like right here and now in this season, the Clippers are all of a sudden bad, and he just sits out until he gets traded. And then turning that for Garland, a guy who's willing to play alongside Kawhi but not be like the other part of the equation, like James Harden was demanding as much respect as much as Kawhi was demanding as much respect with the ball. So I like how they've gotten a kind of a true point guard now out of Garland, a guy who will put up his own volume, but doesn't have any issue playing second fiddle to Kawhi. And they have guys like John Collins there, and Benedict Mathurin now is a big addition there. It's I think the Clippers did a really good job towards the end of this trade deadline. And sorry, what was that? Oh, McCain. Yeah, that was it. Jared McCain going to the Thunder. It is a little bit weird to think about, but so far the way he plays could be very beneficial for them. I think that one thing that the Thunder do lack is a pure sharpshooter outside of Isaiah Joe. So I think McCain and that really being his whole play style fits pretty well for the Thunder, and it really complements what they have been missing a little bit very well. Now going into mine, my worst moves or my favorite moves of the deadline. I start off with Dallas in sending AD to the Wizards, and just looking at the overall haul that this ended up being now with Luka gone. You got Anthony Davis and the 2029 Lakers first round pick, and then you turn all of that into Chris Middleton, Malachi Branham, a couple other guys. I think was it Cam Christie, Max Christie,
Big
and
Christie.
yeah, Max Christie, and then 3 picks, which is okay, but you gave up a surprisingly generational talent in Luka to get back Chris Middleton as the biggest name in 3 picks. You better hope those 3 picks pan out. And I know that there's a lot of talent coming up in this year's draft class, and you can be damn sure that the talent in basketball draft class is just going to continue to increase. But like, dude, that was your franchise. That was the whole reason Dallas was put back on the map, because of Luka. And if I'm Nico Harrison, like, I still got security watching my door every single night. Like, it's been a while since that trade happened, and I still don't feel comfortable in my own skin. So Mavericks, one of the worst just overall returns from the start of the Luka trade to now the ending of the AD and Luka saga. We'll move past that. The Hawks had a bit of the head scratch, like I said, with just giving Trae Young up for CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert, but I don't know if they were predicting to maybe land Kuminga later on. But that combo now of Kuminga, Jalen Johnson, Risa Share, as he hopefully continues to develop, could be something to keep your eyes on. And if depending on how much longer McCollum stays in the league and if he continues to produce at a pretty decent level, he's also a guy who's getting up there in age. I think the Hawks are a team that did decent in now adding a pretty good supporting cast to what they have. And Okongwu's also held his own as a starting center. Hawks are going to be a team definitely to watch in either the coming year or absolutely the coming year, but going forward as well. Now, Jazz, I don't think we need to touch too much up on Utah and what they were able to accomplish. Again, that starting five itself is crazy. Nevertheless, Cody Williams currently having the worst NBA plus minus in single game history of +6 or -60. That one game they got blown out this year. But the Jazz are going to be really interesting to watch. I think they need to now start to add some pieces onto their bench. Ace Bailey has to start developing. He has to start being more consistent. But overall, I think the Jazz are going to be absolutely a team to watch next year, given that this year's pretty much hasn't been great for them record-wise. Lastly, going to be the Cavs. I mean, you traded for Harden. Was there a reason to really do so? Like, you got so much time left with him, and you don't know what to predict with him. If you don't get it done this year or next year, who knows how much longer he's either in the NBA or on the Cavs to begin with. So I don't really love the Cavs trading for Harden. I don't really know how much that really adds to them value-wise. I know that, Garland's kind of a defensive liability, but Harden just hasn't been a guy that's elevated many teams in terms of what he brings to outside of just occasional nights where he'll go off. But his shooting splits have not been anything pretty this year.
Yeah, and it also, I just don't see how Harden and Mitchell like really mesh together. Like,
Weird.
like,
They're both so ball dominant.
yeah, and I'm not like Harden's his numbers, like the stat sheet says one thing. And like it'll show you he can have a triple double, he'll have 10 assists, but like the ball's in his hands. And sorry if this is a touchy subject, Brooklyn, but when he was in Brooklyn, it was there was a lot of issues with that, and that's kind of why he forced his way out of that within 2 years.
Right.
So I don't maybe it was probably the best case scenario to put him on a competitive team in the East, because I mean, like, the package was just a 1-for-1 straight up in a second rounder. But like, I don't know, when I saw that, if I was a Cavs fan, I would be a little like iffy on that. I would
I was
feel
really confused at why they made the move, just because you look at the way that Donovan Mitchell plays, and regardless of how much Harden wants the ball, this is Donovan Mitchell's Cavs. Like, this is
Well,
not, Harden and Mitchell.
I think the trade makes sense for this year. We when you look at the stats, even things that we've mentioned, like Cleveland has disappointed team, like like going into the year, they're not hitting their expectations. I mean, you're talking about the team that was number 2 in the East last year, and they're still going to make the playoffs, don't get me wrong, but yeah, Garland wasn't really playing up to what they needed, and Harden's averaging like close to 25 a night right now. Yeah, he's incredibly ball dominant, but you could argue that gives some pressure off of Donovan Mitchell, and it's not like it's just Donovan Mitchell there too. So I think it was just, it's Cleveland kind of pushing their chips into the middle, saying that, when you look at the East this year, it's pretty open. The West, a whole nother story. But realistically for Cleveland, this is a trade that you're making to say to the league that we're going to the finals.
I guess so. I don't think they're gonna.
Yeah, I mean,
I think I think the I think the East is pretty open right now, to be honest. I think the East and I know the Pistons have been playing stellar, but I mean, if James Harden can find a sync or find a rhythm here with the Cavs, like I almost look at the Cavs very similar to how I look at the Celtics with how the supporting pieces add up. Sam Merrill is almost like Sam Hauser and like almost a carbon copy. And the guy who comes off the bench and will light up threes on any given night if he can get hot. And to be honest, the one thing that the Cavs have that is so in their favor is their big man duo of, Jared Allen has always been very reliable to be a good defensive presence, but Evan Mobley just elevates that roster so much with his playmaking abilities as a 4. So if Donovan Mitchell, James Harden can balance out the ball domination, and if James Harden can really utilize his playmaking ability to elevate Jared Allen and to find Evan Mobley on bunch of mid ranges. Like I think that offense is very hard to stop.
Well, you
But the
talk.
problem is always with James Harden and his ego and how quickly he'll be happy in his situation.
Yeah, I mean, the playoffs for Harden hasn't been his specialty, and that's got to change this year, 1,000%, if Cleveland wants to do anything. But one of the things we're going to talk about is just some surprises from teams this year, overperforming, underperforming, and just sticking it in the East here. I mean, the two teams I want to talk about from the East were the Pistons and Celtics. I don't think the expectations were a 1 and 2 seed, and both are playing at that level. I mean, the Pistons, we talked about how they're number one, but at the same time, they're 14-2 straight up versus teams with a 60% or higher win percentage this year. 9-1 against the spread as dogs. So I guess long story short, I guess they're playing down to their level of competition when they play bad teams. But this Pistons team has just been hitting on all levels. Jalen Duren, first time All Star. And I think there is questions for both the Pistons and the Celtics. Again, with no Tatum, you trade for Nikola Vucevic at the deadline, but the roster I think still on paper I don't think compares to a lot of these big playoff teams. So you saw the Cavs go get Harden. You see the Pistons, the Celtics still there at the top. Do you guys think Detroit or Boston has a route all the way there, or like who would you even say is your favorite out of the East right now?
I mean, my pick is all biasy, so I can have Brooklyn go first because I think he'll be a little more realistic.
I think it's kind of crazy if you think that the Celtics are actually your favorite out of the East to realistically make a championship run.
Yeah.
But um, I see Cavs having a serious chance if they can kind of get that scheme together with Harden. Now, I think Detroit, the way that Detroit's played, Cade Cunningham has been so good this year, so efficient. I mean, I know he had that one game where he had like 50 points off of like literally 40 field goal attempts, something like that. But they rely on him heavily.
Yeah.
But he's a guy like a Men Thompson who he just eats minutes and he'll produce. The thing is, Cade Cunningham will produce at a much higher level. But two teams that I really like making it out of the East, I feel like it's got to be between Detroit and, to me, New York.
I was
I
gonna
think
say
the
I think
Knicks.
it's the Knicks to lose.
The Knicks absolutely. This is their window, in my opinion. You got Brunson's playing still at the top of his game right now. Josh Hart's just such an interesting player and how he plays and how well he can do, how averagely well he can do everything. Karl Anthony Towns, like obviously that's you got one of your best big men of the last couple of years, and that team's just starting to flow really well together. And I think that right now it's going to come down to who's the most like well developed unit around each other, rather than just like pure talent. Because then again, if you look at Cleveland, you got pure talent there, but if Donovan Mitchell and James Harden can't click, it's not going to work. So I like the fact that the Knicks have been together so long, and the Pistons have also been a team that's been built for so long. So to me, it's between Detroit and New York.
I have to agree. I do think it's the Knicks. I think it's the Knicks conference to lose. I mean, it's all there. And I mean, last year, obviously, Tyrese Halliburton was playing out of his mind. And then that team kind of collapsed in that game 7 after he went down. That offense just kind of looked all over the place. So I think this is the most established team in the East. I mean, there's a few sleeper picks that I will touch on. I think Toronto's kind of a sleeper team this year. I mean, they added Brandon Ingram last year, and now they're getting a full season with them. They've been good. They've been producing. Grady Dick, I know one of Nico's favorite NBA players.
Whoa,
He's been
you're
he's
saying that
been
with no context is
Yeah,
crazy.
I'm actually I have no idea what that's about.
Yeah, no,
That's just weird.
I got to meet the guy like back before he was in the NBA, and he was a chill ass dude. You're saying, oh, Nico loves Grady Dick, and no
Yeah, you're
context.
like you had some heavy emphasis on the last name. Yeah, I
but
got to meet
eh,
Shane Larkin, my idol.
but Toronto, they're sitting at the 5 right now. They're 32-23 record. They're only 2 games behind Cleveland. And then if you look at the standings right now, Celtics, Knicks are right there, and then the Cavs sitting right at the 4. But I mean, and then there's kind of a drop off from the 6 below. I mean, you have Orlando sitting at the 7 seed, but I don't even think they win a 7 game series right now.
Don't even
Any of
get me
these teams
started on
below there.
Orlando, dude.
Yeah, but I do think. I mean, I'm gonna be biased as hell. I think the Celtics, if they go on a run defensively, if they lean on Brown and White, then yeah, I think they can make the championship. Why not? But I do think that
Why
it's
not?
the Knicks. I do think that it's the next conference to lose. I do love Detroit. I love Cade, but I just think that team's too young. But then again, I don't know, man. I said that last year about this Pacers team, and they almost won the whole thing.
I was
So
about to say the Pacers were pretty young, and you want to talk about
yeah,
a Tyrese Halliburton, the one leading that charge. You know what? Why
yeah.
don't the Nets just win the next 30 games straight?
I would
They could
love it if the
make a run
Wingstop
too.
team. I would love it if the Wingstop team from 2 years ago can make it to the finals. This would be great.
Nah, Detroit's got the coolest narrative, I feel. But yeah, I do think it's the Knicks to lose. Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, I mean, is there anybody else you guys really want to highlight in the East before I start talking West?
Not in the West, or sorry, not in the East. Just well, I mean, I can say that for mine unless you want to
Oh
just
yeah,
go right to the West and then
that's what I'm
bounce
saying.
back.
We'll just talk, keep it on the East, and then we'll go to the
Oh,
West Coast.
yeah, I got three East teams that have kind of piqued my interest so far this season, and one of them I think is a lot of people are starting to take notice right now are the Hornets, and really I think it's a lot because of how much you've seen Colin Kneppel start to excel in a role where I don't think anyone expected him to be this good right off the bat. Right now, Con is currently eighth all time in just overall 3-point percentage as a rookie, and you still have half the season to go. And if you know, I think he's shooting around somewhere around 43% right now. And next up on the list would be Steph to clear if he can finish the league. I mean, I think it was Anthony Morrow shot 46% as a rookie, but nevertheless, Hornets also rank in 10th in offensive rating per game, showing just how dominant they can be and how efficient with offensive possessions. I mean, they are a team that scores on a high clip every single night. So I kind of like the Hornets to be a sneaky team that can make the play in and definitely could be someone that can upset you just with how much they can score on a nightly basis. Now, we were talking about the Magic earlier. I mean, as much as I bet on them enough, like I bet on them a couple times this year, and wow, they are just so aggravating in every way to watch play because
I hate Desmond Bain. I hate
Desmond
Desmond
Bain,
Bain.
that trade was disgusting to now look at. And I don't
Especially,
think
yeah, when
Desmond
you have
Bain
Trae Young go for fucking CJ McCollum, and then Desmond Bain goes for what,
multiple
five
picks.
first-round picks?
Yeah, it was
Was it four
gross.
or five?
I
I
don't
think it
think
was
he's
4.
the problem in Orlando. I think the problem in
I don't think he's the
Orlando
problem either.
is Paulo.
Good.
No, there's multiple.
You
Like
think he's the problem?
You think
Paulo,
he's the problem?
Paulo. Like I saw a video of this guy breaking it down, and I think it's pretty accurate as well. Like Paulo is a good player, but he's not a great player. And
I don't think he's a star.
yeah, like like he's an above average player, but in reality he's not a number one on a championship
No.
winning team, and he's paid like that, and the roster's constructed around that. The
Right.
whole argument I saw was somebody saying that it's almost better when you have your first overall pick. It's almost better for them to just be outright ass. You reset, you go for the next one. Like you look at like Zion as like a similar example. I mean, granted his has been staying on the court, but it's a first round pick that you put a lot of money into and you're not getting the return that you expected, and it leads to mediocrity. So
And
I think Paulo holds him back a little bit.
there's been a lot that's played into why the Magic haven't necessarily been efficient, and starts off with well a bunch of things. Mo Wagner has been injured all year. I don't think he's seen the court, and I think he tore his ACL. And then Franz Wagner, on the other hand, has been injured for the last several or a couple of months now, and he is their number two. If he's healthy, it is Paulo, Franz, and then Desmond Bain. And right now, like the Magic have been just so bad at either establishing a lead and especially closing out a second half. Multiple games, I've seen Desmond Bain, as much as we just shit on him, like I've seen Desmond Bain explode for a couple games, but now, yeah, let's refocus back on Paulo, guy who can score at a high volume, but he can't shoot at all. Mid-range magician to the core, and has currently shooting the second worst. I know he's only been in the league 4 years so far, but second worst 3-point percentage of his career, right around 30%. Um, and
He had a
if you
bad
watch him,
playoff last year too. It was
yeah,
rough.
they call him PB and no J, and like it's true, he doesn't have a great jumper.
Oh
So
man, that's
it
brutal.
reflects. It
Imagine
reflects.
getting called that on a national broadcast. PB no J.
And
Fuck,
you
dude.
were it reflects right now in where the Magic are. This is a team that I thought I was gonna have them within 6 in top 6 in the conference, and they're now just barely outside of that. But they also have just had so many issues in just winning games overall, especially against teams that they should have beat. They lost to the Warriors earlier this year, and I think that was either the game Jimmy Butler tore his ACL, or Jimmy Butler wasn't there, but they couldn't even close that out. Portland, not a team on record wise that is saying like, "Wow, look at me." I mean, they are definitely in contention for a play-in,
Oh
but
wait,
Denny
wait.
Advia is.
You want to talk to Toronto?
Oh,
We're
so
going to the
sorry. No,
West.
you're right. You're right. Yeah. Yeah, we'll go to the West in a moment. Sorry. Well, yeah, we will go to Toronto. Toronto has been a team that has been surprising to me in terms of just how well they have meshed together. Right now in the league, seventh in defensive rating, is a top tier unit defensively, and fifth in the East. Their bench unit, I don't think is anything too crazy. Nothing, no name on the bench really stands out to me, but they've made a lot of things work. Brandon Ingram's been pretty solid, and I mean, it's been weird seeing how RJ Barrett's kind of declined off the Knicks recently, but so far that unit's been working well enough to win some decent amount of games. So I think Toronto surprised me in how well they've been able to keep up within the top six. But they also just went on a run a little while ago to get them there.
I'm not really bought in on Toronto, to be honest. I think it's like one of those clear as day regular season teams that does well, but I think they definitely have problems when it comes to just like overall just not having that, as dumb as it sounds, like that guy. Like Brandon Ingram is known as like a volume shooter
That's
that just can't.
that's been their narrative though. I mean, until before they got Kawhi, that was always kind of their thing with Rosen and Lowry. Like they were a regular season team, and then they never did anything. They
LeBronto.
couldn't beat LeBron. Yep, they couldn't do it.
But yeah,
But I do I like the young core that they're building. I like them, Scotty, Ingram, and then quickly. It's a good foundation that they got going.
flipping to the West, I don't really have too much there because for me, I feel like the West has gone pretty much as expected. It's always tougher to talk about because although I feel like the West is so much more difficult than the East, just off of just like talent wise. So you're going to see teams that you expect to be good and a couple injuries and they fall off pretty quick. But if there's any team to talk about, I think the funniest one to bring up that I want to is the Kings. We've seen a lot of issues with like the Jazz got in trouble with like tanking where they're like Laurie and Triple J weren't playing into the fourth quarter. But you want to talk about just like an ethical team that sucks, man. Like the Kings go out there and they give you the washed bulls, they give you Russ, they're giving everything they got, and they're just not it, man. I mean, you go from being one of the most exciting teams 2 years ago, lighting the beam, you make the playoffs,
Mhm.
and now you're just literally at the bottom. It's sad, but I just think it's one of the funnier narratives of the year.
The King,
Sabonis too. He's out for the year. He
they
got
Yeah,
and
to add
traded
Levine.
in
today,
to make it worse.
and Levine, both of them.
Uh, their best player is Demar right now, but then it's right after that is like what
Russ.
Ross. I mean, Malik Monk's talented.
Keon
He's
Ellis
a
was
bit. He's
cool,
Keegan
definitely.
Murray.
but you gave him to Cleveland.
Keegan Murray.
DeAndre Hunter is up there right now as a top three player on this team.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Kings, it's somewhat unfortunate because guys, Demotis was doing so well before he got injured, and he's always been such a pretty well-rounded, forward that or big man that took the league. I think by how like, almost like he was like a subset of Jokic type of caliber. Like he could put up points, rebounds, assists. Like not many centers when they started to go off could do that like that. Um, yeah, I don't have anything but condolences for Kings fans. Like the light the beam stuff was so electric, and now you're just I can't talk.
Wearing the
I
Nets
had no room to
jersey.
talk here, but I
As
can
he's wearing the
sympathize.
Nets
I can
jersey.
sympathize with the feeling of seeing it all go down the drain.
Sacramento, bring it in. I'm here with you.
A team that I kind of wanted to talk about quickly in the West is the Houston Rockets. Currently, they're sitting at the 4 seed right now, 33-20 record. Uh, when you look at these West teams, especially like the teams in the top five, their conference record, they're all, pretty wide margin between like wins and losses. And then you look at Houston, and their Western Conference record is 19-16. So like most of their wins are coming from teams from the East. It's really, and I also just like I feel like kind of goes to show like how tough this conference really is. Like the 7 seed is the Suns, and they are 9 games positive, if that tells you anything. So like the West is tough, but this Rockets team though, honestly, is one of the more better defensive teams in the league. Also, really quickly, they're 5-1 against the spread as underdogs. They haven't really been dogs clearly as much, but when they do, they always cover. But they're 23-30 against the spread this season. So 30-23. regular season record, but 23-30 against the spread. I thought that was funny. They're fourth in points allowed, which is top 5 in the league. They, average only 110 points per game. What's so funny?
They're fourth in points allowed, top 5 in the league.
Well,
Sorry.
sorry, I had to add emphasis on that. Also, they are the best rebounding team in the league. They nearly average 60 rebounds per game. That'll happen when you have guys like, I always forget, Amen Thompson? Is it Amen on Detroit or Oster on Detroit?
Amen is on the Rockets. Asar is on Detroit.
Okay. KD, Amen, and then Segun. They're ranked best defensively in the first and third quarter in games, but however, in the fourth quarter, they are ranked 18th defensively.
That's so niche. I think
they
it's so funny.
It's so niche, but it's just interesting stats. So they're really good defensively. They're also they're second to last in threes attempted in the league, but they're also 26th in threes made. So they rely a lot on their points scored in the paint or within the mid range. But that's kind of expected when you have Sengun and then also KD, who kind of relies more on the mid range. But I think I think this is kind of an interesting team. Definitely a team after getting KD were favorites, but kind of seeing how the Spurs are playing and Denver's playing. I don't know how they match up in a 7-game series, compared to the 3 other teams above
Well,
them right now.
you don't want
in
to
the
see them
standings.
if it's an odd quarter. First and
No,
third quarter.
not in an odd
they're
quarter.
locked.
They're good at starting the game and like carrying it towards the end, and then they just blow it up in the fourth.
So long
Yeah,
story short,
basically.
Houston, they just get gassed. They just get the second quarter
Yes.
hits, and everybody's looking at the bench.
They don't finish.
Not at the 3 either.
Nah. No pause.
And then
either.
yeah, KD's got his burner account that if you haven't seen that, he just aired out everybody, including current team members. But
Jabari Parker is so crazy.
It was Jabari Smith. Imagine Jabari Smith just like opening X and seeing that and just like oh damn, I got.
Like, how do you go to practice the next day?
I don't think you bring it up. Like I straight up don't think they talk about it. I think KD just like moves in silence. Like
they definitely talk about it. There's no way he does.
Who's bringing it up then? KD. Is KD gonna go up to Jabari and be like, "Hey, sorry, man"? Like no, it's not KD.
No. He's one of the best players of all time.
You think Jabari's gonna go up to KD and be like, "Hey, I heard what you said"? Like, I would hate.
Probably not.
I would hate to be in that locker room.
Your eggs are ashy. Your eggs are ashy. Your legs are ashy. Boom.
And then another team that I also wanted to talk about is the Dallas Mavericks. Just this dumpster fire of a franchise. Heading into All-Star Weekend, they've lost their last 9 games. They just shipped out Anthony Davis for a bag of chips. Kyrie Irving also came out today. He's sitting out the rest of the season. I mean, that was kind of expected. I mean, this team really has, aside from Cooper Flag, they don't really have anything going for them. They're 12-24 against the spread versus Western Conference teams, so they just get basically shelled anytime they play a team in their own conference. They're second in the league though in fast break points. They average nearly almost 20 points scored off the fast break, so they score fast. With that being said, though, they're fourth in the paint. They're fourth in points scored in the paint, but they're also second in points allowed in the paint. So I typed this really weird. I'm sorry.
They're within one of the top teams to just enter the paint. It's like a race.
The Dallas Mavericks are the 4th team to enter the paint. End of stat.
Fourth best top. They're ranked 4th in points scored in the paint. Both in doesn't matter. All they just love going in the paint, both offensively and defensively.
Dallas love paint.
Because you look at how they play, and Cooper Flag, like, great so far. He's been very promising, but he's not necessarily a tremendous like 3-point shooter. And
doing everything else though, and you're gonna complain about him? I'm sorry. I mean, like he's been great this year. He's been electric.
Really not great. It's in the paint.
He's been great.
They clearly can't.
But some of their more impactful guys are. It's been weird. Najee Marshall has started to show up on that team now, and even he's like not shooting great from 3-point, but he's a guy who lives on you blow him by guys and go into the rim. And then the centers, like you don't have Gafford who can really shoot. Marvin Bagley's a mid-range guy. Like the Mavericks are not a team that necessarily plays from the arc, unless it's Klay Thompson.
Yeah, at least he's got
But
Meg
even then,
because
he's
this team, they trading AD, you're blowing it up. Like you clearly have a good foundation for the future, and you got draft assets. So
I went with Luka. Oh,
there's no matter what they can,
if they
no
didn't
matter what they do, they're
if they didn't get Cooper
no.
Flag, then it would look so much worse. And the fact that Cooper, like again, imagine if they got the 1-1 in the Ricochet, like draft class. Like you don't even have Coop to look at. Then it's way worse. But there's something there. It's just not for this year.
imagine you gave up Luka and you ended up getting like Noah Senge or something.
Heartbreaking.
That's like the next upcoming star.
Yep, about Portland real quick, so then we could talk bets.
Very quickly. And it's not even nearly about Portland as a team, but more specifically about Denny Advia, and I think that's a player that no one has really been able to brush over when you look at what's happened in the NBA so far this year. Denny Advia has just exploded in terms of points per game and just overall output, averaging 25.2 points per game last year. Remember he was traded from Washington to Portland right around midway through, is averaging 16. And shows up to Portland, and I don't even know if they established him as the guy. You have so much in Shaden Sharp and Jeremy Grant. Scoot Henderson we're still waiting to hear from him. But
He's there.
he's on the team and he does wear goggles.
He was hurt for most
But-
of the year. He came back like 2 weeks ago.
Fair enough. Well, then let's see if he starts to bring this ship in the right direction. But Denny has just kind of taken the reins himself. Shaden Sharp alone is electric, and he's just as talented, if not probably to me as a higher ceiling when you look at them than Denny if he didn't start popping off this year. But Denny's just been absolutely amazing to watch this year. I don't know. I like the Trailblazers' direction that they're headed, but I think that if you can have Denny and if Denny continues to play at this level, I mean that team, as long as they start to figure out who are we framing this around, how are we structuring this team, you got something good in him.
They got good pieces all around. And yeah, like Lillard isn't the same player he was, but that's going to be an asset you're gaining next year for free, essentially.
Yeah, how can I forget 3-point contest champion Damian Lillard? Now back on the Trailblazers, and he hasn't played.
And you got Time Lord over there, Rob Williams, shooting like 43% from three this year. It's kind of funny. Donovan
That's
Clingan's,
crazy.
I miss
And Clingan.
Clingan's been
Clingan had a
good.
2020 game the
And
other night.
Clingan.
Like that team has so much going for them in the next couple of years if they can just mold it together right.
And they're a fun team to watch. They score. They're a high-scoring team.
And I hope Scoot pans out, man. I don't think he will, but I hope so. But to wrap up the episode, of course, we do always have some prop picks. We've got some bets going in for Thursday night. So quick turnaround here. You got to open up your sports books. But leading it off, I've got two props, both points props. I'm going with first one, Moses Moody over 10.5. Hitting at 80% in his last 15 games. And right now, Steph Curry isn't ruled out for Thursday night. I don't think he's going to suit up. And I think if he ends up being ruled out, this line is going to jump. So if it's already been cashing, and I think he's going to get more opportunity if Curry doesn't play, I think it's a very good opportunity. And then my second play, Bub Carrington over 9.5 points versus Indianapolis, a team that is bottom 5 in opponent field goal percentage, bottom 7 in opponent's points per game. And Carrington in his last 18 has gotten 10 points or more 78% of the time. So two simple ones, and I'm hoping I can start my NBA year off on the podcast 2-0.
Going back up the ladder here, or going back down the ladder here. I'll start off with a Michael Porter Jr. prop, and this is now specifically coming because there is no Cam Thomas on that team. Where does nearly all of that scoring volume go? If it's going to be shooting wise, it's unless Yegor I cannot pronounce his last name.
Three-gore, baby.
Three-gore. I will refer to him as Three-gore too. And you'd think I would know that as a Nets fan. No, I hear it 4 different ways on the broadcast because I call him the Omen. Yegor Domin. I hear sometimes. I'm like, I don't know which one it is. But unless Three is there, MPJ is getting nearly all of that volume. They're going against Cleveland, not really expecting a game where the Nets are necessarily going neck and neck with them. But if you look at Cleveland's stats just overall as a team, they are a team that allows the third highest 3-point percentage to opposing teams, the seventh most 3-point shots made per game, and 10th in 3-point attempts allowed. Now, Michael Porter Jr. just on his own averages close to 10 3-point attempts per game. So he is letting it fly without any
Did you say
hesitation.
10?
Yes.
Yes.
He is
Dude.
averaging almost 10
Oh my-
attempts per game from
I'm
3.
placing that right now. Oh my.
You want to talk
God.
about sheer volume? You want to talk about just sheer volume and the ability for that to
Dude.
happen against a
10
team that
threes.
statistically allows
I'm gonna let it
some of the
fly.
highest amounts, right? Nets should be
Clearly.
playing from behind, and if that's the way that they're going to be trying to be scoring,
Should
if
be.
that's their go-to guy, I feel comfortable giving that a chance. So right now, 3.5 threes is at plus odds, but
I was just about to say.
whenever you're
Ooh.
taking an odds or a threes prop, you are betting on the guy to get hot. So I'm saying that with Michael Porter Jr.'s volume, just banking on the night that he catches fire for at least 4 threes. Maybe he goes like 4 for 12. Something that he does. But moving on, Amen Thompson, 28 plus points, rebounds, and assists. I believe the line is close to 30, might be 29.5. For a stretch of the season, that was a line that was sitting right around 30.5 to maybe sometimes 32.5 per night. And if you look at just Amen Thompson's averages just throughout the season right now, he is averaging 30.4 when it comes to points, rebounds, and assists combined. He also plays the second most minutes per game in the league. Now, this is very relevant in the sense of if you've watched Rockets games, which oddly enough, if I throw something on the TV, Rockets are very much a primetime team. I see them all the
You just
time.
missed that big foot of Mr. Durant.
Hey man, NBA on
But
NBC now. They stream all these games, so they make it easier to watch.
Amen
Actually.
Amen Thompson is a guy who sneakily gets involved everywhere. I had a night where I took this prop and it was right at the 30 mark, and I had taken it over 30 and a half, like 17 assists by the end of the night. He had a double-double, or his double-double came through rebounds, and it was a low-scoring night for Amen Thompson, but he gets involved so many different ways. So 28 plus is the line that if you looked at recency in the last month or so, he's covered that at a decent amount. Hornets are also playing without Miles Bridges. Blanking on the name of their center, but their top rebounder is out because of the malice in Charlotte against the Pistons that we saw a week and a half ago.
Probably my
But
favorite moment
that
from
being
the year. That was
that's
a
the most
brawl.
memorable easily. Shout out Rochester native Beef Stew for some reason just going at Miles Bridges off the bench. You would have still been in the game if you didn't do that. But Amen Thompson, 28 plus PRA and an MPJ over 3.5 threes. Those are my picks.
All right, and I'm hoping to bring some of my football prop luck, honestly, my hot streak into basketball. My 2 picks. I'm starting off. I have Tyrese Maxey over 6.5 assists. These odds were at minus 139. I mean, I know you guys didn't really say your odds. I just like to throw mine in. This is all on DraftKings. He's hit this line, I believe, 63% of the time this season. Hawks also, they rank dead last against guards in the league betting wise this year. I also think just matchup wise, this is pretty good for the Sixers in general. I think Embiid's gonna have a pretty good day, and Maxey in his last 10 has hit this line, I believe, 6 or 7 times. And then my second pick I'm going with here, I'm actually taking an under. I'm taking under on Josh Giddey, 13.5 rebounds, assists. In his last 5, he's only averaged 12, and the Raptors match up pretty well against forwards. They rank second defensively against small forwards. Also, they trading away Vucevic is pretty tough. They also got rid of Ayo Dosunmu. So I mean, Giddy's been a pretty surprising player this season. I mean, the Bulls, they also kind of had a hot streak, but I think matchup wise, it's pretty tough. I think Jakob Poeltl and Brandon Ingram are gonna be able to limit Giddy. So I'm rolling with the under pick here. He is favored actually in this line, but rolling with the under.
Love it.
Really quick, you want to hear something about Michael Porter Jr. And this is just I wasn't BSing you with my stats here. Against the Magic on January 7th, he went 8 for 18 from 3. Against the Nuggets on January 29th, he went 7 for 15 from 3.
I was just I was
Just
just
from
about to ask, how many threes did he take?
like
I looked at that box score, so I think he scored 40, and then like the second highest scoring net had like 12.
I just love how
Like
he's
right.
the
Their scoring comes from him now, and I promise
yeah.
you go to ESPN, you look at Michael Porter Jr.'s game logs, scroll down from 3-point column only, and you will see he is pulling threes all all game, like every
You
possession.
have
You got
like
like
it's not a bad bet just because of the amount of
the
attempts.
volume, the volume.
It could happen, dude. Like
Right,
dude's
and
almost taking
the
20
next
shots.
I love that he's been living up to the narrative. You know, in Denver, it was, you know, Michael never passed the rock, Porter Jr. And then he
Yes.
shows up to Brooklyn, and
There's a reason.
everyone's like, wow, this roster has nothing. He might take 30 shots a night, and he's lived
and he
up to
does. He
it.
does just
He
that.
is.
Um,
He is.
but yeah, picks for Thursday: Tyrese Maxey over 6.5 assists, Josh Giddey under 13.5 rebounds, assists, Michael Porter Jr. over 3.5 threes, Eamon Thompson 28 plus PRAs, Moses Moody over 10.5 points, and Bub Carrington over 9.5 points. That is going to be 6 picks for your Thursday slate. And we'll be keeping track of this throughout the season, what our hit rates are. Again, we're going to be having plays that aren't going to be on the podcast, so make sure to follow the socials at @LikeThat_pod. 250 followers on Instagram this week. Yippee. Something new. We're growing. We're moving. But I'm excited to be talking ball, and we've still got the best of it in front of us. We're going to have playoffs. We're going to have a bunch of good basketball to see. But that's all from me, guys. I will be watching from my couch.